Hi everybody, this is Gijs again with another review and I hope you are doing well. As you can see, it's a review about a tent. It is about the Hilleberg Helags. And yes, I am in Sweden and on the background there is the Mount Helags. And I've been trying to shoot this video already for at least 2 years and every time I failed. So now on holiday in Sweden I thought let's go to Helags and try it for I think the 4th time. So, did I succeed? Just watch the video. Enjoy! And welcome back to the review on the Hilleberg Helags. For those of you who follow me already for a long time, welcome back. It's nice to have you on my channel again. For those of you who are new to my channel, it might be polite to introduce myself. My name is Gijs. I am a Dutch outdoor gear and bike and gadget reviewer. And well, you know about outdoor gear, tents, hiking boots, pants, that kind of stuff. Bikes, well, you know about bikes probably, and gadgets. Well, I shoot a lot of my videos with, for example, a DJI drone, a Pocket 2, which is a very nice small camera, and I do the reviews on those as well. Now, if you like what I do after seeing this video, then please watch some other videos as well and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Many thanks in advance. And now let's start with the review on the Hilleberg Helags tent. The version that I'm reviewing here, it is a 2-person version. There's also a 3-person version available. Now, the weight, it's something that I always think is of key importance because you need to bring the tent in your backpack and then weight is an important thing. I measured the tent completely on my precise scale at 2,367.6 grams. And that is even a little bit less than Hilleberg claims because they claim a weight of 2,400 grams. Now, because I'm always very precise on what I do, I measured the inner tent at 740.4 grams, the outer tent at 903.2 grams, the poles they weighed 514.5 grams, and the pouch with the pegs inside, which are 16 in numbers, I measured that one at 164.7 grams. And then of course the stuff bag that the tent comes in, I measured a weight of 47.9 grams. Now the pack size, it is also important of course. When you pack the tent in each pouch all together and you put it onto your backpack or into your backpack, the pack size that I measure is 23 centimeters in circumference by a length of 52 centimeters. That is a little bit different than what Hilleberg claims because they claim a circumference of 17 centimeters and a length of 51 centimeters. Is this a big deal, those small differences? No, of course not. And now, let's crack on with all the small little details that this tent have. And let's start with the tent fabric. Well, this is the answer. We did not make the shoots on Mount Helags. As soon as I started shooting after the introduction, well, hell broke loose outside and everything is pretty wet. And I just did a last shot with the drone and that didn't want to come back either. So I'm pretty happy that at least the tent was up and that we can stay dry. And now we wait till the rain is over and then we'll probably head back to camp to get the things dry again. But now let's continue with the review on a different spot. So now you know the weights and the pack size, and now it's time to pitch the Helags. And this is pretty easy, but I have to be very careful because of the mushrooms around. The tent opening is going to be somewhere on that side and I have got 3 cameras and I hope I'm going to do this correct. But first, take a peg and pack down the bag because it might blow away in the wind. And do the same for the bag that holds the poles. And what is important, one of the poles is a repair pole, and it's got a repair sleeve as well, and the instructions on paper. So put that one in the pouch and tie it together with the peg. Now this is basically what it takes to pitch a Hilleberg Helags with only 4 pegs. And if you chop wooden sticks you don't need the pegs at all and you save some weight. But just for the looks, let me make it a bit more beautiful and tie out all the guy lines or storm lines, how you like to call them. Now that's how you pitch a Hilleberg Helags. And now let me get my mattress and my sleeping bag in there, and also some of my photo equipment, and I will talk you through all the small little details of the Helags. For those of you who know Hilleberg already, you might know that Hilleberg uses its own tent fabric material, and it is called Kerlon. And Kerlon 1200 is one of their most used materials, but this is a Kerlon 1000. And this is a ripstop nylon, and ripstop means that when you get a little puncture in it, that the tear will not go on, because there is a thicker yarn woven into it like crosses. That's why it's called a ripstop. Now the thickness of the fabric, it is a 20 denier, and 20 denier is pretty lightweight. There's also 15 denier, which is even more lightweight. It's more like a sandwich bag, which is very flimsy when there's a lot of wind. Very common is a 30 denier, but this is a very nice sort of in between of lightweight and being very strong. Now to make it waterproof, the fabric has 2 layers of silicone coating on the outside and 1 layer of silicone on the inside. What you should know about silicone, here in the forest it's not a problem, but if you are into more summer-like conditions when it's a little bit sandy and dusty, then you will see that a lot of dust and sand will stick to the silicone fabric. So be careful with that. Always clean your tent when you pack it together for a longer period. One of the strange things of a silicone coating on the tent, and especially on the inside, is that you cannot put a taping on the seams, because the taping just doesn't stick to it. Now, how do they solve this with a silicone fabric? They use flat fell seams, and that means basically that there are layers on top of each other which are stitched together, and that makes it waterproof. And next to that, it has a swell yarn. A swell yarn is used, and when a swell yarn gets a little bit wet, it swells, and that means that it closes the holes. Now, in the rare occasion that you've got a little leak on a seam, and it will not happen when you have a new tent, but when your tent has got several trips already on it, then sometimes those little holes, they might get, because of stress, they might get a little bit bigger. And what you then can do is use a little bit of seam seal on the inside of the tent. Don't do it on the outside, it will work as well, but it looks absolutely stupid. I mentioned in the beginning of this video already that the Hilleberg Helags is a lightweight 2-person tent for the snow-free days in a year. And this is basically something that Hilleberg thought of, because normally we talk about a 4-season tent if it's also meant to be used in the winter time, and we talk about a 3-season tent when it's not to be used in the winter time. Now, Hilleberg really would like to state that this is a tent for the snow-free days of the year. Do with it whatever you like. I think it is a tent for summer, late autumn and early spring, leaving out basically winter with snow. But if the winter is like in the Netherlands with hardly any snow and not very low temperatures, then yes, this is really a winter tent as well, because it is snow free. And in that respect, Hilleberg is not that stupid. Now, let me talk you a little bit through all the small details on the outer tent. And let's start with basically the attachment points from the outer tent to the pegs. Now, if we look at the attachment points of the fly to the pegs in the front and in the rear, then you will see that there is a very nice metal part here, which is of course very sturdy. and that it has a very nice pulling loop. And when you pull it, of course, you pull the tent fabric a little bit tighter, which is sometimes important because the silicone fabric, because it's thin, it is sort of stretchy. And when you get more moisture weather or it gets a little bit colder, then it has the tendency to relax. And then you have to tie this down a little bit. But then when the sun comes out, don't forget to release it, because otherwise there is going to be too much stress on the fabric and also on the seams. What a nice mushroom, and if you know what kind it is, please put it in the comment section below. Now, it's not about the mushroom, of course, it's about the peg. I already mentioned with the Helags you get 16 aluminum pegs, and they are very, very sturdy. They got good grip on soft grass grounds, but also good penetration capabilities when you get a little bit more like rocky stuff underneath. With the moss and what's underneath it, it is of course very, very easy. What I like about the pegs as well, they are upsilon shaped, if you look at it from above, and that on every edge there is this V-shaped opening, and that is of course for your guideline, which is really fixated on that spot. What I also do like is the cord, the pulling cord on it, because with cold fingers or with gloves it is very easy to pull the peg out of the ground. And it is also very handy if you put a carabiner around all of them, then you really have got them really neatly together. Like you've seen already, the tent has got 3 poles, and the front one and that front one, or that back one and that back one, they are identical, so they are just yellow, plain yellow. The middle one, it's a little bit longer, and that's why it is color coded red, and you see it with the red taping over here. Other brands, they mostly use a totally color red anodized pole, but Hilleberg has been using a tape already for a very, very long time. And to be honest, for a brand like Hilleberg, I always think it looks a little bit silly, but it is also, well, a little bit of the charm of a Hilleberg tent. So you will always know that this pole needs to go into this red color coded pole sleeve, and you can never ever make a mistake here. The pole sleeve, it is quite wide, so that means that the pole slides very easily through it. On the other side, the pole end, the ends basically in a reinforced, I think it's a nylon material, so that the pole will get into that pocket basically and will not get out. And it's that strong that it will not be influenced when it rubs on stones or whatever on the ground. So it is really a durable material. On this side, however, there is a plastic cup. And in this plastic cup, this is where the pole ends, basically. Now, what is important is that there is a strap here as well, of course, with this metal thingy. And what you need to do is that when you've done this, you basically pull the strap like so, and you will see that it holds the tent more together, making it basically stronger. So this is very, very important, because this pulls the pole sleeve onto the pole itself. Now, what you also see is that there is a nice nylon loop to secure the tent on this part to the ground. And of course there's also another one, and this is not really solid anymore. Let me do it again. There's also one on the other side, of course, because then you've got the inner tent that is nicely stretched out to its full width in the middle. Now, one thing that you really should be aware of when you pack your tent is a rope. There are 3 of them, and these ropes, they connect basically this pole end to the pole on the other side, or the pole end on the other side, and they prevent them, of course, from going way wide. But when you don't pack your tent very carefully, and for example, these ropes end up with these toggles or these adjustments of your guy lines, or that the outer fabric of your outer tent goes underneath that rope and you pack it, then when you need to pitch your tent, it's going to be all tangled up, and you're going to have a hell of a job to get your tent pitched very quickly. So packing your tent, do this very carefully and be aware of this wire and also of the guy lines. Now, what you will also see is that the guy lines, or some people call them storm lines, are attached also to loops onto the pole sleeve, and they have always got two Hilleberg. And the point is that because you've got two, of course the force is being directed onto two parts of this very sturdy piece of tent. So when there is a lot of wind, this is really functional. You might think that because of the color, the guy lines are reflective. Well, they are not. It's just a white and a red in there. Hilleberg has chosen not to make them with a fiber that is reflective because of the fact that it makes the tent a little bit more heavy. You can buy storm lines or guy lines from Hilleberg that have reflective material in them. Now, what you can't see on that side probably, but on this side there is a reflective piece onto the pole sleeve. So when you go out for a wee at night, you will find your tent back, but you will not see the guy lines. With a little bit of sun coming through the forest, it's a very nice moment to shine some light on the design, a very specific design feature of the Helags, and that are these arches. I mentioned it before, the Helags, it is a yellow label tent, so that means for the snow-free periods of the year. That means also that the Helags is designed for more ventilation, because it does not need to have a fabric that is close to the ground, because it's not for that kind of weather. And that's why they made these really nice arches, and you see it in the beginning and also here on the back. It's got arches all along, and that makes that there is a lot of airflow coming from beneath. Now, don't worry if it's windy and raining, because yes, this part, of course, this is where the fly or the outer tent ends. But if you look very closely, you will see that if we take the inner tent, that the floor of the inner tent, that one is of course waterproof. The wall is very, very high, so you will not get any rain, basically, on the inside of the tent. Did I notice that these arches work? Well, I'll tell you that later on. Before I head on to the inner tent, I should talk, of course, first about the door and about the vestibule. But first, let me close the door for you so I can explain this. The zipper, it is a very nice YKK zipper, and it goes all the way down. And when it's all the way down, the YKK zipper pulling tabs, they've got these very big eyelets, if that's how you call them, rings, and there is a red toggle underneath here. It's a little bit fiddly from this position, but because of this toggle, wind does not influence the zipper. It will never crawl up. I like this when I'm in my tent, just to secure the zipper so that nothing can get in, or when I go out for a short hike, just to close it, because it's sort of a hidden secret. What you see on the outside is that the zipper itself, it is covered by a very thick material that looks a lot like bisonil, and this covers the zipper so that no rain can get onto the zipper itself, and preventing, of course, leakage. What I do like is that there is a little bit of reflective material here, so when you go out in the night for a wee and you've got your headlamp on, you will find the entrance to your tent. Now, the zipper is a two-way zipper, by the way, so if you want some more ventilation, then that is possible from this side. And then you get basically from the arched part and this open, you get a sort of chimney effect, so that enhances the ventilation and reduces condensation. That was a nice sentence. Now, let me open it again, get the toggle out of the way, and talk about the vestibule itself. This is also a very nice toggle, but the material, it is very, very slippery. So sometimes you will need to redo this one when you get in and out the tent. Now, this is the opening, the door basically. And for me, I'm a small person, my wife is a small person, my kids are smallish. They're smaller than we are. So this is fine for us. I talked to my next door neighbor Gijs. They are about 1 meter and 95 centimeters. They find the inner space of the tent fine, but getting in and out the tent, they think it is a little bit cramped. But hey, that's their opinion of two very big, wide-shouldered guys. I measured the vestibule depth, and it is 95 centimeters. And you see that I've got some stuff there, so you can put some luggage in there. So if you are on a bike, you can put a couple of panniers there, and some also on the other part, of course, because it is a totally symmetrical tent. What you see here is the same on the other side, or you can put your backpack there. I have my backpack in the tent at the moment because for me as a smaller person there is quite some space, and I would like my backpack to stay dry. Now I can do this in two ways. Of course, using the rain cover of my backpack, because Hilleberg, they do make a footprint for the inner tent, but they don't make a footprint that also covers the vestibules, and that's something that I would like, because that means also that you get less condensation or damp from the grass, and that means less condensation in your tent. And sometimes it's also nice to have a footprint covering the vestibules just to stay clean. Now you will see that there is a jet boil in there with a Optimus canister. I did a review on a Optimus Gemini. It's not for sale anymore. See that review, put it in the description below. It's not only not for sale anymore because I did the review, there are more reasons. But yes, I do cook in a tent, and Hilleberg does not like this. But yes, I do it very, very carefully, and always with a jet boil, which is of course a closed flame. No, I don't do this with a petrol burner or gasoline burner, something like this, only with a jet boil or a similar system. Now, there is one very neat trick, that if there is bad weather, in this case I don't need to cook, of course, inside the tent, because now it's fine outside cooking. But if it is really bad weather, then this spot is quite small, and you really have to be careful. But what you can do, and that is a very nice trick that I've learned, is that when you take the first attachment points of the inner tent, and then you take the inner tent a little bit way back, then you get a smaller inner tent, but you get more space in your vestibule, and that means that you got more space for cooking, and still all your stuff will still be easy accessible in your inner tent. And now let's move on to one other very specific design feature of the Hilleberg Helags, and that is basically the thing that sold me this tent, although I did not buy it, and I will send it back after the review. But it is this gimmick. Just watch what I do. Nice toggle here, nice toggle there. Now, what I like about this, about taking the vestibule away, is that when the weather is like it is at the moment, beautiful, it's going to be a little bit chilly tonight, but I've got the fabric, the mesh fabric, to protect me from insects. So as long as it is not raining, I can just get away of this whole vestibule, lie in my bed and have a perfect view of what is outside the tent happening. And that side, it's not that important or not that interesting, but the same thing you can do, of course, on the other side, because that's where it's got a vestibule of the same size with the same capabilities, getting it out of the way and have a very beautiful view on your surroundings. I've talked about most of the design features on the outside and the little details. Now let's go to the inside of the tent and I'll talk you through all those details. The inner tent, those are always pretty difficult to shoot. Let's take my shoes off. Because of course with a normal camera, I cannot shoot the whole interior. So I put the DJI Pocket 2 out of the tent in the other vestibule. So I can show you a little bit on how the tent looks size-wise. And the P2, I've got a microphone up here, so it also records my sound next to the little lavalier microphone that I have here. The tent, the inner tent, the main fabric, it is made out of a 10 denier ripstop nylon. And of course it has got a coating on the outside so that when you've got little drops of condensation falling from the outer tent onto the inner tent, that those drops will purl away to the side basically. The floor, it is made out of a very thick 70 denier nylon that has got a triple coating of polyurethane on it to make it absolutely waterproof. And in the time that I've been reviewing this tent, no water has come through. What you will see also is that it has got, in this case, still the mesh door. On that side it is open. So just for the picture I will open this one as well. What I do like about this door, the mesh, it is very fine by the way, so that no mosquitoes will enter whatsoever, is that it is a very big, basically a sort of a D-shaped opening. And what you can do now is you can fold this or roll this away, and you can use the elastic band with the toggle. But since the tent, the inner tent, has got 4 pockets near the entrance, 2 on this side and of course 2 on the other side, it is 100% symmetrical. I like to do it in this way because this is just a little bit more easy. What you will also see now is that what I mentioned about the outer tent with those arches, that on the inner tent the bathtub height here is really high. At this point I measured a distance of 22 centimeters. Near the doors it is 12 centimeters, and believe me, this is high enough. Now then let's take a little bit of the size into account. Because I am a small guy, I am 1,70 m tall, I weigh 63 kilograms, so for me the tent is very, very spacious. I can sit upright, which is absolutely nice. My wife, same size almost, so the two of us, they fit together in this tent perfectly. The size of the tent, Hilleberg states that it is 120 centimeters on the both entrances basically, and in the middle where it's at its widest it is 140 centimeters. My sizing, my measurements are a little bit different because I measured a width of 125 centimeters over here, and I measured a width over here of 142 centimeters. So it's a little bit wider. Then talking about the length, Hilleberg claims a length of 220 centimeters, but when I measured it I came to 214. Now this can be because of the way how I pitch it and the way how Hilleberg pitches, so I think this size difference is not that big of a issue. The height, Hilleberg claims a height of 86 centimeters near the entrance, and in the middle it is 1 meter high. I measured 1 meter and 2 centimeters at this point, and I forgot to measure the height at the entrance, but I came prepared this time, so I brought the tape measure of my mom and I measure a height of 33 inches, which is 85 centimeters. So in this way Hilleberg and I are absolutely, well, on the same level basically. Now what is important, of course, how big of a mattress can you fit in this tent? Now my wife and me, we sleep on mattresses from Expat for the last couple of months, and they are 50 centimeters wide, 2 meters long and 5 centimeters high, and both of them, they fit in there perfectly. What you also should know about this tent, I mentioned the 4 pockets. There are no extras in the tent except for a little washing line in the ceiling basically, which is nice for a pair of socks to dry or maybe for a wet towel. And in my case I have got a headlamp here so that when it is dark I've got my light for reading or just doing my business in the tent. Turn it off, yes. Now this is what I wanted to tell you on the inside of the tent, and now let's go over to that side again because I have got a little surprise. Ta-da! Totally different setting, because when I was shooting the inner tent in the Belgium Ardennes, all of a sudden big clouds appeared, rain, and when I looked at the footage at home, well, basically it was pitch black and unusable. So I had to shoot this again. What I did not tell you on the inner tent is that this one is made out of a basically a closed nylon fabric. But if you are going to more warmer areas and want more ventilation, then Hilleberg also has got a mesh inner tent for sale, and it will set you back 330 euros. What I do like about basically this construction with the inner tent connected to the outer tent with the toggles is that if I just want to take the outer tent, for example, when I'm away with 4 friends as a shelter, just take the inner tent out and you can use the outer tent separately. The same can be said for the inner tent, because if you take it out and you just need something like a shelter for the night when it is really warm weather and it's not going to rain, you can pitch the inner tent also separately. But you will need a set of pole holders that of course Hilleberg has also got available, and you will pay 33 euros for this. By the way, I managed to do it without any big problems. As you can see on the light, the sun is getting lower and lower, so that means temperature is dropping, it's getting a little bit more humid. And what I said in the beginning about the tent fabric, that you have to retension it depending on the weather circumstances, sun or rain or temperature drop or rise, you can see it already, it's starting to slack a little bit. And you've probably seen it also in some other of the footage that I did in front of the tent, that the tent fabric was really, well, basically moving in the wind, because I did not pull the guy lines very strong. And I did this because normally especially when you have the opening totally open, the panoramic view, I would place it a little bit more to the side, put a little bit more tension on it so that the tent fabric stays very tight. In this case I did not do it because I did not want to have the guy lines in the image, not directly into the image. Now, one thing that is of course very important is how weatherproof a tent is. Well, taking into account that Hilleberg says that this is a tent for the snow-free periods of the year, that still means that it should be wind resistant and of course waterproof. Well, waterproof it absolutely is. We've had no issues whatsoever. Windproof, that's a little bit of a different story, because it is a tunnel tent, and most tunnel tents, because, well, basically a nice wedged front and rear, that part is very well resisting the wind. And of course when the wind is blowing from that direction and it blows on this part, then of course you use the vestibule and the entrance on the other side, because that's when you are sheltered. But when the wind is shifting, or when you pitch it and the wind is coming from the side, because you need to pitch it on that spot, you don't have another place, then you will notice that basically these high walls, yes, they are being influenced by the wind. And they will move around depending on how much wind you have, of course. Did it bother me? No, it did not. I slept like a baby. But one thing that is very nice with the wind is the condensation and the ventilation of this tent. Because, and again, those arches, there is really a lot of wind blowing underneath it. So you've got a really nice wind flow underneath or between the outer tent and the inner tent. Now, you could discuss that you need a ventilation in the top, because that air has got to go somewhere. Well, yes, that might be the case, but my trick is just open the door a little bit, because it's a two-way zipper. You can open it from the above, and then you've got way more ventilation going on. It's like low, high ventilation. And if you really want a tent with more ventilation openings in the top, well, then you probably have to buy a other tent from Hilleberg, because that are just different type of tents, and they will probably more in the 4-season all-weather tent category. That was a pretty long day and I need a cup of coffee. Because the bad news is I have to pack everything and go somewhere else. Because I'm not allowed to stay here, because in Belgium hunting season is open, and from 5 o'clock till tomorrow morning hunting people are coming into the forest to do their thing, and they advise me you're not allowed to be there, so go away and camp somewhere else. But this spot was just too beautiful not to use it for this video. So after all this information, it's time to head on to my verdict. How do I rate the Hilleberg Helags? Well, in the first place, I would like to say a big thank you to Hilleberg, because they allowed me, or they gave me the time to test it for 2 full seasons, and that for I'm very grateful of. I do like the pack size and the weight, because if you take the sturdy materials and all the small details into the equation, size or the pack size and the weight are absolutely spot on. Pitching of the Hilleberg Helags is easy peasy. Just put the poles in the pole sleeves, 2 packs in the back, 2 packs in the front, and when it's not too windy, basically you're sorted. So pitching is easy, but when you pack your tent again, be careful of those wires that go underneath the tent that tie the ends of the poles together, because if you don't pack that carefully together also with the guy lines, then these might get tangled up together, and then when you need to pitch your tent very rapidly because of bad weather coming, then that can be a very big hassle. The inner tent is big enough for 2 big adults, and the features, there are not too many, but they're adequate. What is a little bit of a thing, that when you've got the vestibule here, that the entry to the tent is quite small and narrow, and I've asked a couple of really big guys to get in and out of the tent and how they experience it, and they think it is a little bit on the small side. What I also do like is the fact that you can use the outer tent and the inner tent on its own, so as a mosquito tent or just as a lightweight shelter. You don't need to buy the extras from Hilleberg, but that will make it a little bit more easy if you do it their way instead of my way. One other thing that I would like is a footprint that basically covers the inner tent but also both vestibules, because then you just cover a lot of more grass, and that means that you get less condensation, because sometimes when it is a little bit humid and there is not that much wind, you know, even a full floor will help getting less condensation inside the tent, and that's always nice in the morning when you don't have too much of this wet stuff against your tent fabric. But the best thing of the Helags is of course this construction of getting the vestibule out of the way and having this fantastic panoramic view. Every time when I took the vestibule away, I absolutely loved it. And at this moment I love it too, because I can feel, when I go like this, I can feel already the night cold coming a little bit. But inside my tent I'm covered, I'm sheltered, but I still got this great view. Now, regarding the price. The Hilleberg Helags in a 2-person version retails for 1,070 euros or $985 or 1,075 pounds. And yes, that's a lot of money, but you will buy yourself an excellent tent. And therefore I rate the Hilleberg Helags at 9.2 points out of 10 total. I really hope you liked this review, and if you did, then please give it a like and leave a comment below. And also, if you've got questions, remarks or suggestions, please use the comment section, because I'm more than happy to answer everything that you can throw at me. Now, I'm almost forgetting to make my coffee. Let me do that first. Now, if you really like what I do as an independent reviewer, spending a lot of time on testing for totally free, then please not only give the video a like, but subscribe to my YouTube channel, because with more subscriptions I can make more videos, and also it feels much more rewarding if I get a little bit more followers. And if you really like my way of independent reviewing, you can always support me with a small donation on my Ko-fi account. It's in the description links below. Now, I'm going to drink my coffee very fast, and then I'm going to pack everything and find a different spot out of this hunting area. I hope you will have a very pleasant day or evening. Enjoy the outdoors and stay safe. Ciao, ciao! And since I got up at 4 o'clock this morning, oh, this coffee will do me good. And I still got 13 minutes left to pack everything. And you cannot see what I bring for these kind of shoots. Too much, basically. Bye.